Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're tuning in to Championship mode now, and we're looking forward to the first round of the Senior Football Championship coming up this weekend. Joining me to look ahead to the Madden and Grange clash, it's Peter Nugent and Tommy Coleman. And as I say, we're going to go through all the ins and outs of this game, and it's nearly like a county final because it's on its own. We can really dig into it. But the difference being that there's no championship form to go on. So we'll be looking at this game through everything that has happened in the league, the teams that we think will line out, the matchups that we think is going to happen. And obviously we'll be looking forward to a compelling senior championship. Tommy, I'll bring you in here. It's a great start to the senior championship, having two evenly matched teams. It certainly looks like that from the outside, and a real 50-50 game to get it up and running.
Oh, it's starting. They're starting fixture to get us going. A preliminary round. Added in, it's a derby game as well. It's just across the thing. They're very familiar with each other. As you said, there's nothing really. It'll be very, very hard to pick between them. I suppose when you go on league forms, Madden would have the edge slightly, but when it comes into the championship, it's a totally different ball game. Everybody will be concentrating and focusing in there. It's going to be very hard to call, but really looking forward to seeing it this Saturday night.
And Peter, obviously you've an insight into both teams. You were over the Grange for a good few years there, and obviously you would have come up against Madden a couple of times. This really is 50-50. It's going to be nearly impossible to call a winner here.
Yeah, Sean, it's going to be extremely tight. I think we were just remarking off further how pleased we were that this was the opening game of the championship. It is 50-50. It's a 50-50 call. Grange would have played Madden twice last year in 1B. Two really tight games. A draw in Madden, where Grange sort of nicked the result of the death. And then in Grange in the last game in the league, there wasn't really a whole lot to play for. Madden had already won the league at that stage. Madden won it by 3 or 4 points, I think. So there's not much between the teams. There's probably a little bit of a contradiction in clash in styles, and that Grange will look to play their traditional game, moving the ball forward really as quickly as they can off the boot, trying to stretch the game, whereas Madden are probably a little bit more reluctant to do that, and maybe will play a bit more patient and through hands and look to get their key men freed up off the back of that. But it's set out to be a cracking game, and just the way you want to start the championship, really.
And you talk about Madden's key men. Obviously, we can't talk about Madden heading into the championship without talking about Niall Grimley. And a couple of weeks ago, Tommy, me and you sort of did touch on him, his absence in the last couple of rounds of the league. But heading into the championship now, you're missing your star player, your best player. Niall obviously has been a stalwart for Armagh the last few years, never mind Madden. So it's a huge miss for Madden coming in on Saturday night without their main player.
It's massive blow, and we'll probably touch on this through the rest of the championship. But I think most of the clubs have a big player out this year now, unfortunately. We always want to see the best players playing, especially playing in the championship. But now Grimley's been the go-to man for Madden for as long as this last 4 or 5 years. He's even not more. He's an outstanding footballer. But it gives the rest of the team so much more energy when he's there. He's just his presence alone, lifts everybody else and gives them another 10-15%, and that's something that they'll have to get. They'll have somebody else to come on. They'll have to have somebody else to stand up and take over that leadership role within the team. Added to that, there is a superb fielder, and I think really him losing out around the middle of the field. I don't know who they can really replace him. And I would be, expecting Ethan to line out in around the middle of the field, and that's going to be a big call for Madden to try. Naturally, that would have been a great matchup, but something that we all would have wanted to go and watch and see. Because Barron, as we were saying, maybe Ethan hasn't played a whole lot out this year, but I think he's played out more than a whole lot of all people, even on the Armagh team, than the role that he plays as the fly keeper. So he'll be well out. I think it's going to be for Madden is to get somebody to take that their role and to mark him, where you had your natural there. Not only would he been the natural man to pick up Ethan, he's a natural leader of the team. He's the go-to man. He drives everything on forward. He tells everywhere to go on the pitch, and it's getting somebody else to take over that role.
I think in recent weeks it looks like Conor Grimley has maybe stepped up a good bit and he's taken in a real leadership role. But Peter, in terms of what Tommy's saying there about picking up Ethan Rafferty, Conor Grimley has been playing midfield, probably wouldn't have the size to mark Ethan Rafferty, and plus if he did have to mark Rafferty it would maybe take away from his own attacking threat, while Peter Lappin could perhaps go into midfield but it leaves a gap at centre half back. He's the rock of Madden's defensive structure, so it's a headache for Madden, who's now Grimley was the obvious choice, but who do you see picking up Ethan, or how do you think Madden go about it?
Look, I think in terms of the aerial battle, they may revert the tape and just go with Ryan Grimley in around the middle. They may also go with Liam Grimley. I know Liam been playing predominantly a lot of football around the full back line, but if they felt like the need was great enough, they could potentially move him out in the middle of the field. And they're two really big men with a lot of experience. I suppose the caveat to that, if they put Ryan on Ethan for the longer kickouts, then does somebody else pick him up in open play? Because Ryan's been on the go. He's been on the go a long time, and he certainly owes Madden nothing. But you would be, if you're in a Grange dressing room, you'd probably be feeling that Ethan, would probably have him over the ground for legs. So there's you could see maybe a situation where they have somebody designated to pick him up on the aerial battle, but also somebody else picking him up over the ground as well. And that's how I sort of potentially see it working out for Madden. Losing now is a massive blow to them, but Madden, the way they sort of generated their team, I suppose, over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, they played a lot of football without Niall Grimley for a start. He's been missing a lot through county involvement anyway. So play a lot of league football without him, and they've built a good strong unit that's been able to move out of 1B and really hold their own comfortably this year in 1A. Like they're right in the race there to go up right into the last couple of rounds, finished third or fourth in 1A, and we're very comfortable. So I don't think now missing out for them in their own squad is going to be as big a deal as maybe what we would think or punditry in general. I think they're well used to playing without him, and I think they've got the news early enough in the campaign that he wasn't going to be available, and I think that'll be a help to them as well. They'll just be able to sort of park it up and move on. And
just on Ethan, Peter, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the movement and the rotation that the forward line and the Grange have. That Owen Rafferty can go in full forward, he might come out the field. Ethan go inside, Ben Toll maybe go in full forward. Will Madden would maybe like Ethan to go in because then Liam Grimley can pick him up. But do you think Grange, will they keep that rotation, or will they keep Ethan out the field because Madden might struggle to get a man marker?
Yeah, I think the indications to date would suggest that since Ethan's came back this year, he's played a fair bit of football inside. He moved inside against Sarsfields. He played inside against Pierce Oak. I think he maybe played a wee bit further out last week against Silverbridge. But I think it's in their tactical strategy this year. I think it's definitely in their interests to keep their options open, to keep moving them in, bring them out when they need them. But it's keeping the opposition guessing. It means that you can, if you're setting up for, say, Mihal and Cahill and maybe Justy or Ben inside, they all fit a certain physical profile. Whereas you throw in maybe Ethan at full forward, or Owen or Colin at full forward, it's presenting a totally different dynamic, and it's something that we always, when we were there, we always tried to make sure that we supplemented the more dynamic players with somebody that they could play off, and more often than that would probably pay it off. So I would be expecting that at all times this weekend Grange will have somebody with a bit of stature playing close to goal.
And tell me, we talk about the forward lines, and quite often on this podcast we talk about teams' forward lines, but these are two teams that are coming into this game with huge quality in their forward lines. In the Madden team, you obviously have Aaron McKenna inside, Kieran Rafferty, Dar McMullen's a brilliant young talent, Joe Sheridan's on the county team. Grange, obviously the two McKennas, you have the Raffertys, you have Justy Cairns now home from America, Ben Toll. So there's a host of quality in both sides in terms of attacking styles.
Yeah, that's why I feel I know that they rotate Ethan in and out, but I think that'll depend on what way the game's going. I think if Grange are chasing the game and need a score or two, or maybe they put around it, they maybe shift Ethan in, because I think that if they started and played Ethan in a full forward, they're doing the job for Madden. And that's my own person. I think that it just tailor-made, then he gets picked up in there. Whereas with White, it leaves that there question. The same with Conor Grimley. I don't think Conor will pick him up for a start, because I think Conor will come out and do it for him, because the couple of games that I've seen him, he has been their go-to man. I think we spoke about it at the Clonard game, where he threw himself out. He just played in basically around the middle, just behind the middle of the field, laid ball in, and then was able to come back in off and take some great scores that night. But the two forward lines are terrific. I'm being aware of Justy Kearns, as you know, and I've said before, you know, for me, he should have had more game time with the county than he did this year. I think he's a massive push for Greens, and a massive lift for them, for him coming back. And he got that game with the boys last week, you know, and that'll make a big difference. The two mechanics are always great players, and then you have the Rafferty's in tow. It's a fantastic forward line. The thing is, Man will probably set up. I don't know whether they'll specifically go man for man or what they do. What they usually do is they drop everybody back in. They condense that area and make it hard to find space, and then come and they'll hit you on the break, and then they have boys that can fly out of it. The Sheridans and all of this world in particular, and to make a big impact on the break. So that's sort of where I would see that game, or where it was sitting out. But you're right, the forward lines is massive, and where Green should probably be going more on a man-to-man, maybe a sweeper or thing. I don't know what'll be enough. I think they'll probably have to throw somebody else back in too when they're lost possession. But Madden certainly will have, you know, 12, 13 people behind the ball, and they'll be well organised, and they're very, very, very difficult to break down. And when they do turn you over, they hammered on. They go at you at pace, you know, and that's something, you know, Greens will be, I'm sure they're fully aware of.
That's probably a good point, Tommy, that the fact that the Greens do have so many great forwards, there's not many teams that have, you know, 5 or 6 man markers, so you can't mark them all, so you're going to have to flood the defence to make sure that they don't have the space to operate.
Yeah, well, that's Madden has that their game, you know. Madden, you know, we played, when we played them, done that, with the exceptions of the first game this year, where they didn't really do it, but every other game we played them, they were able to drop back, they were able to condense their whole area, took up, mark the whole space, and they're very, very good at that. They're very, very, very difficult to break down. But I feel that's what they'll do. Rather than go, man, Mark, he'll go here, they'll take that space, they'll close that door down, and they'll try and keep Greens down to the minimum there. But these boys, you know, they've been around. Greens forwards have been around a long time as well, you know, and they're very, very acute, and you know they get a score out of nothing, and you know they're very tenacious in the tackle, and they'll be up, you know, they'll you know, when they do get the ball, they'll be looking to get them toned back over again right away, and it's going to be a really interesting battle. But I could say that's the way Madden will pan out. I don't think in particular in this game we'll go, he'll go on to him, he'll go to, I cannot say what Madden, you know, for likeness, because these lads are all good players, all good forward. So I think it'll be a more collective area where they'll drop back into the 40 and probably mark out their scoring zone, and you'll find that most of the boys will be in that. Somebody just coming out maybe to stop them from maybe taking the long shot from 50 yards out.
And Peter, in terms of the Grange defence and matchups, it's probably Dermot Rafferty's probably going to pick up Darren McMullen, centre back, going against the centre half forward. So that's a matchup I can't wait to see if it does happen. 2 quality players come up against each other. What other matchups do you see in the Grange defence? And I suppose Grange are concerned for them coming into this game. In the last 5 games in the league, they've conceded 13 goals. So will they play a more compact style, or will they go man to man, or how do you see them setting up their defence?
Yeah, Sean, it's a good point you make. I think Grange have conceded more goals this year than they would ideally have wanted to. I think through the league they're averaging well over 2 goals a game in concession if you take the league as a whole, which is big numbers. You know, you're setting yourself 6-7 points down any day. So I think in the last game against Silverbridge they made a move away from sort of leaving as their defence was exposed, and they played with a nominal sweeper. And I think that was Sean Doherty, who would traditionally be, a very accomplished fullback, great distribution, reads the game well, strong, physically big, and he's a good fit. To play as a sweeper. Diarmuid Rafferty is, for my money, he's probably not that far away from being a county standard player. He's phenomenal composure on the ball. He's tough, he's strong, covers the ground extremely well, great temperament. And Diarmuid, to be fair, this year has been used more, less probably in a playmaking aspect from deep, but more in a man marking sense. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Diarmuid laying there as a fullback. If Madden potentially want to go with Joe Sheridan close to goal, I would say Diarmuid could be the man to pick him up. Depending on where Madden deploy their forwards, of course. Connor Toll probably will pick up Aaron McKenna. That's sort of Connor will usually have picked Aaron up. And then Grange can also call on Sean Toll, who's been playing the fullback line this year and playing really well. Sean traditionally would have played maybe a wee bit further out around the middle, but he seems to have refined his game. Sean's quick, he's strong. Sean would put his head where you wouldn't put your boots. So Grange aren't going to be stuck for doggedness back there, for people that are willing to commit their bodies for the cause. As Tommy alluded to, my only slight concern is that, they haven't been in the mindset all year of, thinking defensively. It's been very much, go forward, let's see, can we outscore the opposition? Yes, they're playing with a sweeper, but if Madden break like Madden can break, and they get the bodies following the ball and they move it first time, and they can exploit the spaces left and behind, if the Greens aren't careful with their attacks, and by careful I mean kicking the ball dead or kicking scores, loose turnovers will be exploited. And that for me would still be a bit of a concern. But man for man, the back Grange, if they can get their full team out, which I'm sort of hearing that they probably will do, they've certainly got the players that can go toe to toe with what Madden will have up front. However, as Tommy alluded to, it's going to come down to really what Madden bring to the table in that counter sense, that they can get 5, 6, 7 of their hard runners breaking over the ground, which I do think they have a slight advantage over Grange in that sense, in that they're probably a little bit better conditioned, and they'll probably cover a bit more ground, if I'm being honest, in the game than Grange will. Then I think that will cause Grange problems.
And I think breaking out at that pace, Peter, that we're talking about for Madden, Joe Sheridan and Niall Smith have probably been key components of that for Madden, and obviously they got their just rewards this year. They got onto the Armagh County panel and they both played in the McKenna Cup. Do you man mark them, man? Do you set up a wall in the middle of the field to stop the runners, or how will Grange go about that?
Well, personally, I always made sure that Niall Smith was happily tagged. Niall Smith he's a really good club footballer. Now, I know he probably didn't really make the impact this year with Armagh, but he's on his first year on the panel, and he's quite slight in build, but he's got an unbelievable machine of an engine that gets him up and down the field. Very quick over the ground, but I'd say the one thing about Niall Smith is he makes very few poor decisions on the field. He will put players in for opportunities. He knows when to go himself, and he genuinely gets stronger as the game goes on. When other people are starting to flag, you will still see him making them 21 to 20 run meter line runs. And if I've seen him score late goals or be involved in late goals from Madden over the last couple of years, I've seen it a million times. So we always made sure, no matter where he was laying out, if he laid out a corner forward and just went in a roving role, or if he played a wing back, we always made sure that we had somebody up tight tagging him, because he has got the potential to potentially run the game for Madden from deep. So I would expect Greens to send somebody to, as Tommy alluded to, Greens will not get too worried about banks of 3 or 4 or 5. They'll be looking to go and tag the key men, and then work from there. They'll be looking to back themselves that they can win enough individual balls to win the game.
And Tommy, we spoke a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Madden and the Grange, that, Madden were safe in Division 1A. They didn't have anything to play for, while Grange, until, the last couple of rounds, were still hoping to fight off relegation, and obviously done that as well. But a form coming into this game, Madden haven't won a game from the 1st of July, I think it is. They beat Drummondtee. They haven't won in their last 4 games, while Grange are unbeaten in their last 3. So momentum in terms of coming into the championship, Madden have possibly took their foot off the gas in preparation for the championship, while the Grange had to win their last remaining game. So it's a difference for both teams coming into this game.
Yeah, it is, you're right, but it's sort of like a double-edged sword there for Baden. You know, you're going in, you're safe. You know, you're not going to win that league. You know, it's now time to prepare for the championship, and you don't have an insight into what kind of training, what they were doing, what they were trying to do. You know, legs could have been heavy. They just making them out themselves, and the hard work could be done, and the sharpening up now, and we could see a different Madden, you know, coming out after those games. It's just hard to know when you don't know what's going on within a camp. But my guess would be was that we're preparing for the championship, and we're, you know, big runs were all done during that their time, and we're still going out, we're still playing their matches, and they're probably now at the age where they're at the sharpening up and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and just getting everything spot on coming here this week. Whereas momentum is huge as well. You know, at the other side of the coin, where Grange were still in the thick of it, and you know, they were looking over their shoulder. They were looking, was Cullyhanna coming, and was Cullyhanna going to catch them? Where were we going to do it? And they went out to put it all to bed, and they won those matches. And winning matches and playing competitive football, to me, you can train all you want and do all you want, but there's no substitute. Now, if they would have lost those games and morale would have been low going into this game, it would have been a totally different scenario. But the fact is, they got really, really good wins. And Silverbridge was a massive win, and it must have been a massive performance. It wasn't a game that I was at, but Silverbridge were right there in the hunt. They knew they had to win that match if they were going to go up. And, you know, Grange, probably, you know, they didn't even have to really win that match. It was sort of, you know, they were sort of safe as it was, but they pushed on, won that game, and that's a massive, massive confidence booster for them going into the championship. And I always say competitive games is hard to beat. And for me, on that, they're going in with momentum and confidence. Grange slightly have the edge of that part of it, whereas Madden are probably maybe a wee bit more prepared for this game. They had been setting themselves up for Grange. They've been able to watch Grange over this last 3 or 4 matches. You know, Mickey and Ronan, they've been watching everything. They've been setting up Madden. They're shrewd operators. And, you know, that's why I feel that's what I said. That's the way that they'll personally play. And but momentum, yes, Grange has got a lot out there. But the flip side of the coin is, although not great momentum going in, but I think they're very, very well prepared and conditioned perfectly for this game.
And I think it is a 50-50 game, and I think we've sort of suggested that. But tell me, in terms of predictions, who do you see coming out on top? Who are you going for?
Oh, dear God.
This is the fun part of the podcast now, where we get predictions.
It's the fun part of it, you know. My predictions have going rightly this year with the league. I got them most staying big calls, mate. Oh, geez, this is a real difficult to call. You know, Grange, when you're playing Grange in the championship, we played them, and Peter was there, and they bring a real physicality to this game. It'll be a massive. It's a massive thing. It's a great thing, strength that they have. If they don't step over the line on it and watch their discipline, because I think the discipline in this game is going to be huge, you know. And Paddy will let a lot of it go, in my opinion. You know, he'll try and let the game go. He'll try and let it play. He doesn't mind the hits as long as it's fair and it's strong. The only thing that's not, he'll punish it, and there's not some question about that. And I think if Grange get that right, I think Grange could nip this match, but it'll not be a whole lot in.
Peter, I'm guessing I know where you're going with this, but give us your prediction as well.
Yeah, you know, I think it's. I think Madden have been on the road a long time, building towards winning a senior championship. I think if you're speaking to anybody from Madden or within their camp, that's ultimately what they're trying to do. Like, they're not here to waste their time. They're trying to build towards winning a senior championship. And I think if you look at their progress and their trajectory over the last number of years, you couldn't call that outlandish by any stretch of imagination. They've beat a lot of big teams in league football. They've had a couple of decent championship runs. They were beat last year by Cross, but they were by no means disgraced. They pushed them really hard. They've had a couple of the year before. I think they took the knob out, and they ended up, I think, beaten by Pierce Ogun penalty. So they've now been shown that there's something there to work with, and that Mad have been shown that they're not far away at all. They're road tested in Division 1A. They've been exposed to the best teams every week. But when it comes down to it, Tommy's off. When it comes down to it,
knew there was a butt coming.
We had that up there lovely from Madden, but I've been in a shared change room with the Grange boys for a long time, and I know full well how they'll be building up this week. There's an outrageous amount of talent in that changing room. That's the long and short of it. And I think it's well accepted. And this is the thing about it, is there's no shortage of belief in that changing room. Like, they could have a really poor league campaign or struggle or stutter here and there, and then all of a sudden Ethan becomes available, Justy lands back from America, and they'll be going around this week fully expecting to win the game. Because they believe in themselves, they believe in the players in the group, they believe in their forward ability. And it'll be a very simple message: feed the boys, feed them often, feed them early. Get Mihal on the ball as much as we can. Keep Justy close to goal. Get Cahill involved. Give him a bit of freedom. Let him get about the field, express himself with pressure on the opposition. Bring a huge amount of controlled aggression to the game. And that's where the Greens really thrive. And that's where, when they're at their best, when they're let off the leash a bit, and especially when they've been talked down. And I know we're both going away tipping them here, but it won't be, not everybody will be tipping them. And I think a lot of people will be looking at Madden's league run, and they'll be thinking Madden have been building, and they'd be slightly favourites. But for me, I just know where the boys will be building up to the week or till the weekend, and I know what they're capable of on big days where there's pressure involved, and they'll not be found wanting. So I think Grange somewhere between 2 and 4 points.
I don't know if the Grange will want to hear this, but I'm going to tip them as well. I just feel the loss in Grimley, just the fact that there's not an obvious candidate to mark Ethan, and I just think Ethan in the big field in Athletic Grounds, he has a couple of them club games under his belt now, and I've seen him against Sarsfields a number of weeks ago, powering through the middle and getting 2 goals. And if he's on form and Madden have nobody to mark him, I think the Grange can edge it. Plus, I think the Grange probably have the better forward line of the two, although I do rate Madden's forward line very highly as well. So 3 votes for the Grange here. We'll probably eat in humble pie next week. knowing our predictions, our form. Although Tommy had a good league campaign, so maybe we're just following his prediction. But
I don't know. But it's just I've watched Grange. I watched Grange a year before against Killeavy. And they brought Killeavy the extra time. Killeavy went on very unlucky in the semi-final at year 2, and of course we beat them last year, and that was without having Ethan or Brenton last year. And they gave us a right.
I don't think Ben Toll played either.
No, the Toll played, didn't they?
No, he gets sent off.
And that's them 3 boys coming back in, and they don't and look what we went on and done after that. I thought we always looked to be the cost-based field. I always thought we looked the more likely the whole day. But God, did we not half know that we were in the match? It was Grange just kept out. They were relentless. They just don't stop. Justy Kearns was on fire that day, and I had to move around. I had to move McCarthy off McKenna. They put him on Justy, and then McKenna took off. We just couldn't. These boys are very, very capable up front, and that's just why just that edge with them.
So we'll see what way that goes. That's on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock in the Athletic Grounds. That'll be streamed live on Armagh TV. The Junior Championship also gets underway this weekend. Clady take on Middletown on Friday night. And just before the Madden game, Derrynoose face Newtown, also live on Armagh TV. That's throw-in time of 5 o'clock. And we're going to hear now from Downey's captain, Paddy Kelly, on their league success and also building into the championship. On Sunday, there's 2 junior championship games as well. There's someone they take on Clevie Seconds, who won Division 2B last week, while O'Hanlon's also take on Portmore on Sunday. So loads of games to look forward to. Of course, we'll be bringing you all the action with previews, match reports, and our podcast review show coming up next week, as well as our team of the week that'll be out next week as well once the championship starts. So we're all looking forward to that, looking forward to a good weekend. Make sure to listen up now to Paddy Kelly, and he's going to talk us through Downey's plans for the championship. Tommy, Peter, great to hear from you, and we'll hopefully get you back on next week, and we'll be talking about all the action from the weekend.
That's great, Sean. Thank you.
I'm delighted to be firstly joined here by Paddy Kelly, the Derrynoosh captain, and Paddy led Derrynoosh to the Division 3A league title last week. Paddy, that was last Friday evening, and I suppose great for Derrynoosh to win a league title, and more importantly, get up and playing intermediate football for next year.
I wouldn't say I was led, Sean. I'd say I was dragged, maybe more so. But yeah, it's great. It's great to get a league title and promotion to intermediate. Absolutely, any day you get a bit of silverware back to the club was a good day. And that's what it's all about. You know, we're really fortunate that the club supports us to the nth degree, and it's nice to be able to turn around and say, look, here's a bit of celebration, and you know, here's a trophy that we can all sort of join together. You know, absolutely, it's nice, like.
And I'm sure, Paddy, this was the goal at the start of the year. You've been sort of knocking on that door for a couple of years, you know, targeting promotion, and I'm sure this year was no different.
Anybody will tell you in that league, it is really, really hard to get out of. It's really hard to get out of, and you know, you have to win all your games. It's just as simple as that. And you know, we were pushed all the way there. You know, we had a decent enough start to the year, and but we were pushed all the way. We lost 2 games in the league, and we were still pushed to the last night of it. You know, so it just goes to show you it's tricky to get out of that. But yeah, just glad to get over the line.
And those 2 games that you mentioned, every week on the podcast we were saying about how well yous were going and yous were at the top of the league, and suddenly it just seemed like there was maybe a bit of a wobble with the Lissummon and Middletown games, but yous came good in the end then.
I'm good in the end. I wouldn't say we wobbled. I'd say Middletown and Lissummon were really good teams. They were better. They were excellent in fairness, and we pushed as well as hard as we could, but it just goes to show you the standard in that league, that anybody on their day can beat you, really, you know, so you can't take anything for granted, and fair play to them. It just goes to show you, look at the league table as it's finished up fairly tight. But yeah, it's something I think every team would kind of have on their radar. You know, that's what you're going to play for. You're not there to take part, you know.
I suppose, Paddy, when you look at the likes of Crossmaglen Rangers last year winning the league, and you know, Balek winning the championship, and you see what they've done now in Division 2B. Balek, as we're speaking, we don't know if they're promoted or not yet, or if they're staying in that division, but they're certainly pushing hard for a league title. And Crossmaglen as well, they've stayed in that division. They're safe mid-table, so there's huge competitiveness and real quality in the junior division. Once they step out of it, they show what they're made of in intermediate then.
An unbelievable achievement for those guys. It's unbelievable. It's only something that we could aspire to, really. And again, we're fortunate that we have a good underage setup coming through. The club are very pro underage, and the work that those guys do underage and midweeks and Saturday mornings is phenomenal. It's just absolutely phenomenal. But it's because of that we do have the youth coming through, and whenever you're getting up into the intermediate teams, those boys are just sponges. You know, they're soaking up how to play, you know, the intermediate football, and they're learning from it, especially if you've got a young team. And it just goes to show you there, you know, about Balek and Cross and Fort Hill even getting up as well, you know, and staying up and mixing it up. It's super.
And I suppose the excitement of it all, Paddy, the fact that you did lose them games against Lissummon and Middletown, it meant that it all come down to the final day. Now, I know it wasn't as dramatic as Harps and Clevie. They actually played each other, but Hughes were at home to Newtown, Middletown were at home to Arrow. Both had to win you knew that if you won, you would win the league. Middletown, they had to, of course, they had to hope you were beat. So I'm sure there was fierce excitement and maybe a wee bit of pressure heading into the game as well.
Yeah, great excitement. Great excitement for anybody watching it. Not so much for the boys that's playing it, but it would have been great to have it wrapped up earlier, but the results just didn't go that way. And as I said, that's the way the results fall. Hopefully that pressure type game will stand to us come championship, because that's what all the games are, you know, and it adds that wee bit to it. You know, it's proper knockout, you know.
And Paddy, I suppose I'm going to have to ask you about Paul Doyle, of course, in his first year in charge with you. Paul has been in a couple of clubs. Obviously, I think it was Katie the last 2 or 3 years. So how has his influence been this year, and how crucial has he been in getting you over the line?
Paul, Mickey, Sean, JP, Connell, they've been giving us the push. They really have. It's been great work done from the management in the past. As you said, we've been knocking on the door now for a couple of years of getting up into that intermediate football, and I suppose the boys coming through just gives it a bit of a freshen up. They don't know anybody. They're external. You know, every man is from the start of the year kind of, there's no certain places nailed on, and you know that always adds a wee bit of degree of excitement. Combine that with the underage coming through and anybody in for a place, and you know, I think that's what the big advantage is of those guys. Paul and Mickey have an excellent track record with Katie and before us, and being a dual club, they were a really good fit. You know, but yeah, it's been that just a wee bit of a freshen up sometimes helps things as well.
And you mentioned the dual element of it. I know Derry Noose obviously are in the senior championship as well in the hurling, and the hurling has got started. Yous are ready for round 2, I think, coming up on Tuesday, and then on the Saturday, then your footballers are in action. So it does take a bit of working, I'm sure, and I'm sure there's plenty of difficulties trying to play both codes.
There is difficulties, absolutely, but to be honest, it's an absolute honour and a privilege, really, to be able to represent both codes in the GAA. You know, it's not something I think I'm going to be fit to do for a long time. So when I am fit, and I know when the other boys are fit, you know, it's a real honour so to do it. But we're not the only ones that's doing it. You know, Katie, Middletown are in the same position, and not only those teams, but there's other teams, Clevie there as well. And I know that there's a lot of football teams that boys play for different clubs, you know, as well. So we're not on our own, and we know that it can be done. Slaughtneil is a perfect example of it there. You know, they can do it at the highest level. So I think half the battle is psychologically and sort of getting yourself right. It's a big aspect of communication between the both codes, and a big aspect of organisation, and trying to have a player led and recognise, you know, when you do need a bit of time off, or just recognising those things. And I must say the management are really good at recognising that, and sometimes forcing some of the boys to, you know, to take a wee bit of time and, you know, put something back into the body as opposed to constantly taking stuff out of it, you know. But communications, and again, Paul and Mickey and Sean have been in these situations before, and they're well aware of the challenges, and with a wee bit of compromise, it works well.
And I'm sure coming up to next week with the 2 championship games, and obviously in between from the Tuesday to the Saturday, there won't be much training done, maybe a pucking about session on the Monday night or something, and the same coming up to Saturday, a bit of a kickabout or something. There won't be much training in between the 2 championship games.
Can't really afford to take the foot off, really. You know, it's about trying to maximise every single session. We can't sort of slouch back for either code. But I leave that up to the managers. There's a lot of factors at play. They're, again, like I said, they're good at recognising, you know, who needs what or what aspect we need to work on, and they've got a great sort of repertoire of drills that they can chop and change into to suit situations, and that's why we're really lucky with the experienced management that they can do that. That it's not just going hell for leather all the time, you know. But there is a bit of chopping and changing, you know, but we're lucky that we have who we have in.
And I suppose, Paddy, I can't let you go out mentioning the championship and mentioning that these are playing Newtown on Saturday. Obviously, he's played Newtown last week, and it was he's won easy enough in the end. But it must be said, yous had all to play for, and they didn't really have much to play for, and maybe didn't show their full hand on that. I'm sure the first league game between yous ended in a draw. That's probably a better reflection of the how close it is between the two teams, and obviously given last year's championship game went right down to the wire, it's going to be much closer this Saturday than it was last week.
Without a doubt, Newtown's a good side. They're absolutely a good side. You know, we were lucky the other night, and then I think I don't know what Newtown sort of we didn't know what they were sort of bringing, but as you said, we could only concentrate on our game, and we weren't sort of concentrating on what they would do. We could only play what we could play, and that was it. But they're a good side. They're a strong physical team. You know, they pushed us all the way in the championship last year. We were lucky to come out with a win, and we were lucky to come out with a draw as well. So we'll be under no illusions when it comes to championship. But the beauty of it, you know, is it's championship football. You know, that's it. That could potentially be the last time you pull on the jersey that year. It's a mad thought whenever you think about it in that regard. But look at, we'll not be looking. We're sort of focusing on ourselves and trying to maximise our own potential, but no way underestimating them in no way, shape, or form. Good side.
Yeah, it's sure to be a cracking game. If it's anything like last year's championship, it's definitely one to look forward to. And I know it's a double header, and both have been shown live on Armagh TV in the Athletic Grounds. User on at 5 o'clock, and Modern Grange at 7. Then next Saturday evening. Paddy, best luck with. I'm delighted that you come on to talk about you winning the league, and best luck with the rest of the year and next Saturday as well.
Thanks very much, Sean. Thank you. Bye.